Sex, money and death. 3 things we don't discuss in houses.
How exactly is life different for a woman when you are financially independent by yourself versus you being dependent on somebody? Let's say I'm dependent on my husband.
During the tenure of a marriage, half the assets should be built in the spouse's name. So if your partner is not doing that, there is a problem.
I have almost 70 lakh followers across all social media platforms. We have noticed around 76% is male. So why is there a difference in financial literacy between a man and a woman?
So the thing is,
Almost every single winner of Kaun Banega Crorepati has gone bankrupt.
there are papers, academic papers, which say that more than 70% of the people who win a lottery within the next 3 years become bankrupt.
Every middle class person is very interested in PMS. They're like, rich people's mutual fund. That's how
Just
they look
don't
at
do it. So for them, I think this new product category SEBI is introducing. They are calling it
So now let's talk a little bit about the difference in financial literacy between a man and a woman.
Okay.
So I have almost 70 lakh followers across all social media platforms.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that this is a sizable database to make some insights about the Indian investor.
It's statistically significant.
Statistically significant, right? And in that, what we have noticed, around 76% is male and 24% is woman. So why is there such a big gap? Why is there a difference between men and women?
There's a upbringing issue, I feel, in the homes, that somewhere the boy is told that, you will have to support a family. And of course, you're educating the girl, but there's a subtext that you don't really need to bother about it. And also for a lot of the business families, the assets go down the male line. So if the girl doesn't know, she won't ask for the asset. So you keep her out of the conversation.
Okay.
And then somewhere, I think, for some reason, women tend to take pride in saying, I have no head for numbers. I don't know nothing about money.
Yeah, they take pride in that. Huh?
I don't know how to answer you because it really bothers me. I think this onboarding has been very, very difficult. And that's onboarding into finance, just to say that, see, the household expenses, when it's in thousands, they're in control. When it's in lakhs, the men are in control.
True.
So it is this onboarding into formal finance, which we've not done well. So I think we need to spend a little more time in making them comfortable in just onboarding their own decisions.
So, but I think you touched upon the first point, which was very interesting to me. The parenting, right? You're saying they're made to feel like don't bother about money.
Yeah.
So, firstly, did that happen to you growing up? And secondly, what have you observed that parents are doing wrong when raising their daughters, which makes their daughters, not bothered about money when they grow up? What are those things that they're saying?
One is that very few people discuss money with their children. I don't think it's a topic. Sex, money and death. 3 things we don't discuss in houses. We don't discuss things about dying. We don't discuss about wills, estates. We don't discuss any of that.
Right.
Sex is a taboo. And money. 3 things which we don't talk about. The subtle thought in the household is you have to earn. Somewhere for the girl it becomes a choice. Okay, because look, there is biology. She is going to bear the child. If there is a marriage or if there's a child, whatever. So the option not to work remains with her. But it's so important for girls to be financially independent.
But in your experience, how have you how exactly is life different when you are financially independent by yourself versus you being dependent on somebody? Let's say I'm dependent on my husband to take care of me financially. How different is it for a woman?
I think a lot of women don't know what the assets are. So everyday spending and all may not be such an issue. Right?
Right.
But I don't think if women know what the assets are, in whose name they are, and what is their share. See, families are complicated things. There are a lot of buttons which get pressed.
Of course.
So I don't know if this conversation between a husband and a wife where she's asking what are the assets, what is my share, is now going to trigger
the husband.
a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Like you want me to die, you don't trust me.
Right.
It is not about trust. But as a woman, my duty of care, I think, is a little different than other male brain. So my worry then is that should something happen to me, my husband and daughter should know what the assets are, where it is. So I begin to record all the assets, nominations. I begin to record in a spiral diary. If as a woman you don't know these things, you have a right to ask, and it is the responsibility of the person to tell you. So if your partner is not doing that, there is a problem. And during the tenure of a marriage, half the assets should be built in the spouse's name. Like, look, if the spouse is not earning, the assets half should be built in her name or his name.
So put all of this on paper and communicate with your loved ones. This is very important.
How many 1,000 crore lies with the government unclaimed deposit? We know that number.
Yeah, it's almost 83,000 crore from what I read. Yeah. So now that we're talking about husband and wife, let's talk about the millennials who are about to get married. So let's say, for example, I don't spend a lot of money, but my potential partner is, like shopping, spends a lot of money. Just a rough example. But does that mean that, okay, I can't be with her? Is that how simple
then
it is?
you have to separate out your joint spending on rent, EMI, or if the house is already bought, whatever else is a joint spending on the household. Whatever you're spending together. And there's discretionary spending.
Okay.
That you do out of your own. And you build your own assets. Make the other person the nominee, but build your own assets. So if she's spending too much, her asset pie will be less. Your asset pie will be larger. So actions will have consequences.
Maybe not overspending. And when I mean overspending, not spending beyond what you have.
That's fine. So come back to the situation where you're saying that two people are getting married. The spending patterns are very different.
Yeah.
Then you agree that we will spend together on the things that you do together, which is rent, EMI, groceries, help, transport, vacations, whatever.
So one bank account for that.
Yeah, one bank account for that, which is a joint account. And your discretionary spends are your own.
So separate accounts for each of us for our own personal
See, your income. So again, you will have one account which is your income account. There'll be one for her, which is her income account. So all your income will drop into yours and hers. You have a joint account where both of you will credit it, either pro rata or equal, depending on, those are negotiations.
That's an important point, right?
It's a negotiation.
It's a negotiation. Let's say I'm earning 2 lakhs a month. You're earning 1 lakh a month.
So that's a negotiation. Whether do you want to do it equal or pro rata? That's up to you.
Some couples will be okay with putting 50-50 even if they're making different amounts of money.
Correct.
Some couples will be like,
to me, pro rata sounds better because the differences could be huge. Then either one person is stressed financially or the other person has to reduce lifestyle a lot.
Okay. But what if the other partner feels like, oh, that other person is making so much more money and spending also. I don't have enough money for my discretionary spending. Why can't that person help me out?
Earn more.
Right? But those kind of problems come, right?
Yeah. So
half of the divorces are because of money problems.
Who told you marriage is easy?
These are the kind of problems which come, right?
Yeah. So those then become things that you sort out. And a mature marriage will be where you come to a place where both move a little bit from what you want. You adjust. I didn't want to use the word, but
Seema auntie says this a lot. Adjust.
So you'll have to shift a bit so that you can come to a point where you both agree.
Got it.
It's like that.
So that is from the spending point of view.
Yeah.
Now from the investment point of view, what is the formula I should follow? Like, do we invest it in a joint account, mutual fund, or do we have our own demat accounts? That is a question which...
So look, I would say invest in your own name. Make your partner the nominee.
Okay.
And she does the same.
Got it.
Okay.
Let both of you all invest individually and name each other nominees.
Yes. I think that's fair.
Now, let's go deeper into investing. Now we've covered the uncomfortable questions about how a couple should manage money, but I'm very interested to know what your asset allocation is.
Oh, my asset allocation. Okay, so for my age, I'm still very aggressive in equity. It is still a 70-30. Incremental investments have gone into debt. Yeah.
So you only have two assets then? Asset classes?
I don't believe in real estate. There's one house, roof over our heads.
In Delhi?
Yes. I find it a very difficult, clunky asset to own, to maintain. The yields are terrible.
Got it. And what about these new age investment options
Crypto.
like crypto? I will keep it aside. But let's say things like P2P lending, that's becoming famous, invoice discounting.
So there is this much time that you have. Okay. How much time do you want to spend in managing your wealth? I don't see the logic. For me, I don't see the logic of chasing any new trend, any new thing. If something interesting comes up, and I think it's not going to be too much of my time, I might think about it.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's plain vanilla. Simple, exactly the way I tell. Whatever I write in my book, I do myself. I keep it clean, I keep it simple. My portfolio doesn't change too much. So it works in the background and I do what I do.
So let's go deeper into, let's start off with equity. Within equity, like how do you invest? Like you said, 70% is equity.
So, there is an allocation between large, mid and small.
Okay.
So like exactly what I tell in my book, approximate allocation is like that. 50% large cap, 25 mid, 25 small. So overall, that's the sort of allocation which remains.
And would you recommend that for like everybody?
So once you start on the journey of equity investing, you need to allocate your equity itself.
Correct.
So
within equity also.
People go all 100% in small cap.
Yeah. They look at the returns and like let's put in small cap.
So a good mix, and you go heavy on the safer part of equity, which is the large cap. However, you want to address it through an index fund or whatever. I don't do direct stocks. I don't want to spend the time on direct stocks.
A lot of people think that if they're not directly investing in stocks, then they're not going to become rich. They're missing out.
So
it's unsexy.
See, that's the by this time, at this age, I don't want to take that risk also. But for somebody who's starting out, don't put 100% of your money. Just put 90% in a structured way with 10 rupees out of 100. Then you take that extra risk.
But what about PMS and AIFs? Where PMS now, every middle class person is very interested in PMS. They're like, rich people's mutual fund.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You don't believe in PMSs?
So the thing is, it is less transparent than, say, a mutual fund. So especially for a retail investor who's just got into the market, I will say, please don't do PMS. You just first understand basic rules of equity investing.
Like I know a lot of friends who are like waiting to have 50 lakhs so they can put all of that money in a PMS because PMS minimum investment is
50 lakh. For them, I think this new product category SEBI is introducing. Between mutual,
PMS,
so they're calling it an asset class. It's actually a product category where the threshold, I think, is 5 lakh or 10 lakh.
10 lakhs.
10 lakh is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you can do the strategy-based investing and the structure is much safer.
And within debt, there are a lot of options, around 16 different types of debt mutual funds.
Correct.
Then there is fixed deposits, then there is bonds. So how do you look at your debt allocation?
So part of the money is actually in fixed deposits. This is your when the world goes to hell money time, right? So that's just that. Plus it's an allocation of debt. Typically they will be marked low to moderate on the riskometer.
Okay, that's heavy risk category.
Yes.
Okay.
Risk I will take on equity, and debt I want to be very conservative because that is my base. If equity markets crash, that's what's going to be stabilize my finances.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do the riskier part of debt. So there is a riskier part of debt. I don't want to do that.
So as a 25-year-old person living in India, what is that blueprint that you would give me for achieving financial freedom? Like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. What is that step?
I'm just going to pitch my own books shamelessly.
Okay.
You really start with Let's Talk Money.
Okay.
Then you graduate to Let's Talk Mutual Funds.
That's the
second book. You will understand basics of investing, basics of markets. You will understand what the stock market is, why it is there,
Yeah.
why it's not a gambling den. You can make it that, but it isn't that. What is a mutual fund? Why were they set up? What are the regulations around it? How many categories are there? Why every category is not to be bought? You have to pick the categories, right? So it tells you you learn to swim in the shallow with these books before you go to the deep end. People are starting in the deep end. They're going into shark-infested waters.
Right. Trading.
Straight F&O.
Yeah.
Who's making money? US hedge funds are making money off your 2,000, 5,000 rupees.
Right.
And the other thing that you need to remember is that this is a very long journey. So even after you've made your money, you'll still have to manage it. It isn't as if you're free from that. So you may as well learn the basics of managing money, no? What is an equity market? How does it work? What is a regulated market? What is not a regulated market? So those basics, once you understand, then you can build your own system.
I think that last point was very, very powerful. You said it's not just about reaching to that certain corpus, it's also about managing that corpus.
Yeah.
And there are a fantastic example here, right? Almost every single winner of Kaun Banega Crorepati has gone bankrupt. Like so imagine getting 5 crores in your account.
There are
and then
papers, academic papers, which actually say that more than 70% of the people who win a lottery within the next 3 years become bankrupt.
Wow.
So money is a force, right? Remember, we began with that.
Right.
So if you don't control it, it will control you.
Right. Cool. Fantastic. And I hope the audience really enjoys watching this entire video as much as I loved hearing you. Thank you so much. And guys, I'll see you in the next one.